Many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Whoa. Come here, doctor.
Man, I gotta go. I'm working.
Doctor, this is the mayor talking.
All right.
Doctor,
Come on, what?
always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
Reaching out to the four corners of the globe and broadcasting to you live from the studios of LA Talk Live in beautiful, sunny Los Angeles, California. Another beautiful day, and what makes it more beautiful than sitting right here in the studios of LA Talk Live and bringing you an all-new episode of The Marijualogist. Joined as always with my esteemed colleague, Ecor the Wolf. You see us now. We're live on camera. We're live in the studios of LA Talk Live. All new episode, a live episode with a very special guest who's going to be joining us later on in the show. We are essentially in open forum, and we will be opening up our phone lines starting now. So if you'd like to contact us, give us a call in the studio at
323-473-3100. Again, that's 323-473-3100.
Hey man, it's not hip hop. You don't need to grab the mic that tight.
I know.
All
Zero,
right.
zero, zero, zero,
Anyway.
3100.
So, you know, as we always like to start off our show with some validating messages that we glean from the website of Law Enforcement Action Partnership, one of our knowledge partners.
LEAP.
Yeah, one of our knowledge partners here on The Marijualogist, better known as LEAP, formerly known as Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. A new organization, new leaders, new message. We typically start our show off with some of that. Tonight, our LEAP guests we found to be very tied into our discussion tonight because we're going to revisit, as always, this discussion of the drug war. And as I bring this music down in the background and before we go to some live sound bites, I wanted to take a moment out to just kind of remind our tuners out there where we are in this great mission, this great movement, this great entity, this great industry that we call the cannabis industry. You know, there's a drug war, but we're just a part of that drug war, and it seems we're still in the crosshairs of our new, or the country's new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. Nearly half a century, I'm reading to you now from CNBC, and thank them for this content. Nearly half a century of America's drug wars has produced the largest prison population in the world, devastated minority communities, and contributed to an opioid epidemic that claims more than 20,000 lives a year. Yet, U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions wants to turn back the clock. In late February of 2017, Mr. Sessions announced the formation of a crime reduction task force that will review, among other things, existing federal policy on marijuana and then present its findings in late July. Well, we'll find out exactly what those findings turned up. Sessions wants the task force to review current policy and how the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is tackling a number of areas that he believes contribute to crime, including illegal immigration and drugs. In other words, in short, Jeff Sessions wants to turn back the clock on all of the progress that has taken place in this country in its struggle to come to terms with our love of drugs. I love cannabis. I've been talking about it since 2009 when this station started. I don't love any other drugs. I don't consider cannabis a drug.
Thank you.
But the fact of the matter is, I love cannabis. And I don't want anybody getting in the way of me having safe and legal access to it. We've talked enough about its near minus negative impact on society, meaning that no negative impact. None, zero, no overdoses, nothing like the opioid epidemic that we see in our country right now. Copious discussions with experts talking about how cannabis can help cure or curb at least, or in some way minimally address this opioid epidemic by using cannabis concentrates as alternatives. And yet we have Jeff Sessions, who wants to turn back the clock on all of this forward-thinking progress. That said, a gentleman, a brother, in fact, that I really, really fell in love with, you know, since he was the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Cory Booker, now senator, Democratic senator for New Jersey, has introduced new legislation to address this marijuana issue. But before I get to that, we've got some sound clips we want to play about that. I want to talk about the fact that, and this was reported from February 12th, 2017, from the website marketwatch.com, marijuana tax revenue hits $200 million in Colorado as sales pass $1 billion. Now, mind you, that article is dated back to February 12th of 2017.
Wow, that fast.
That fast. So that said,
they're out there feeling. Everybody's like, I guarantee you that's a real comfortable, calm area and city right now. You know, it's very pleasant. You know what I'm saying? On a lot of levels, people are thriving.
No violence, right?
No violence.
Very calm.
Very calm. Very low violence. People are more calm,
laid
back, a lot of stress free.
Right.
I guarantee you, especially when you hear that number, billions.
And then not just
employment. There's employment going on. People are making money now.
Not just stress free, not just
eating.
laid back, but also the economic factor, the employment, as you say.
You know,
the $200 million in tax revenue.
That's
and
amazing.
here we have the newly appointed but recently recused from the federal Russian investigation, Attorney General Jeff Sessions,
right,
who thinks he has a better idea about this. Well, let us go now as we take a break. We're going to go to Cory Booker, who is the Democratic senator for New Jersey, who has just recently introduced legislation to readdress and redress the crimes against cannabis. Brown and black men who are in jail right now due to minor possession. After this, at about 4:45 Pacific time, we're going to have a special guest who was there when this legislation was introduced and spoke as a member of Law Enforcement Action Partnership. Mr. Nick Bucci will be joining us via Skype. Stay tuned. I didn't want to go there. We'll be right back. More from the Marijualogist. Don't go away, and share it with your friends.
Yes. Ow.
Signal before. This is a very important bill I'm about to introduce, but I want to give you a little background first and foremost. We live in a country where we swear this ideal. We put our hand over our heart, and we believe very strongly that we are to be a nation of liberty and justice for all. Well, one way in which we have not fulfilled that promise, that ideal, is through our criminal justice system. And this hasn't been always the case in terms of what we're seeing today in our modern criminal justice system. And what has happened really is the so-called war on drugs. Since the 1980s, our federal prison population has gone up 800%. Overall in our country, a 500% increase in incarceration. Not only is that taking billions and billions of dollars of our taxpayer money, but we are not seeing the equal application of the criminal justice system. We're not seeing people being arrested in any way that reflect our values. Now, if you think about it for a second, we in this nation have seen the war on drugs. We could actually go to our prisons, go to our jails, and just see who is getting swept up, who is getting incarcerated. One of my great heroes, a guy named Brian Stevenson, says we have a justice system that treats you better if you're rich and guilty than poor and innocent. Well, if you go to our criminal or our jails around this country, you're going to see disproportionately poor people. You're going to see disproportionately people of color, the mentally ill, disproportionately people who are addicted, and disproportionately our veterans. We in this country have done and persecuted the drug war, not on everyone, but have focused it on the most vulnerable people in our communities. Now, I know this personally, having grown up in a town that was relatively privileged compared to where I've lived for the last 20 years in Newark, New Jersey. In addition to that, going to college and to graduate school, you don't see kids coming home from frat parties being stopped and frisked. You don't see the enforcement of marijuana laws. In fact, in so many of the privileged circles I've been blessed to be in, and many times you hear people bragging about using pot, making jokes about it. It's something that's really funny. Here in the United States Congress, it's just sometimes you have conversations with people that readily admit using drugs. But if you go to communities that are poor, if you go to communities with color, clearly this is not a laughing matter. You see that these are the communities where people are getting arrested at rates tragically higher than other communities. In fact, just on looking at race in our country, if you're African American, you have no difference than using drugs or even selling drugs. There's no difference between blacks and whites in our country. But tragically, in this country, if you're African American, you're going to be arrested for using drugs almost 4 times more so than someone that's white. I've seen that in my communities where people are churned into the criminal justice system, tagged with charges for nonviolent drug use, with using marijuana, in a nation where our lawmakers and our legislators have been using drugs. Some studies have shown up to about 50% of adults in America have tried marijuana. Look, I have seen children, young teenagers, getting arrested, saddled with criminal convictions for the rest of their lives for doing things more minor in terms of drug use than 2 of our last 3 presidents admitted to doing. And so this rank hypocrisy in our country, that is actually not even the driving force behind this bill. The reason why I'm introducing this legislation, which I'll describe in a moment, is because of the devastating impact it's had on our nation. It's not just the wasted taxpayer dollars, but if you just look at marijuana, and please understand that a study by the ACLU between 2001 and 2010, looking at 8 million arrests for drugs, they saw that 88% of them were people being arrested for possession, overwhelmingly for marijuana. So understand what happens to a person when they're arrested for marijuana, when they're convicted for that charge, when they get a felony conviction. What that means is they have, as according to the American Bar Association, about 40,000 so-called collateral consequences. This is what you know. It's so hard to find a job. You can't get business licenses. You can't get Pell Grants. You can't get public housing or even food stamps. So many things are cut off to you. Now imagine if those arrests are overwhelmingly concentrated in certain communities, where you have the churning in of the poor people in those communities, or the minority folks, or disproportionately large numbers of the black men in that community have been arrested for doing things that if you went to a college campus and really did the police work, you'd find that large numbers of those folks are doing those drugs. Well, what you do is you severely impact those communities economically. You create crises within families as people are being separated from their children. You hurt their long-term economic potential, so much so that there has been one study that I saw from a university that if we had incarceration rates just like our international peers, we would have probably about 20% less poverty in this country. And so when you see these marijuana arrests happening so much in our country, targeting certain communities, poor communities, minority communities, targeting people with illness, targeting disproportionately our veterans, you see the injustice of it all. And then you see what's starting to happen around this country right now. 8 states and the District of Columbia have moved to legalize marijuana. And now, having months and months of evidence, these states are seeing decreases in violent crime in their states. They're seeing actually increases in revenue to their states. They're seeing their police forces being able to focus their time, energy, and resources in focusing on serious crime. They're actually seeing positive things coming out of that experience. Now, I believe the federal government should get out of the illegal marijuana business. And it disturbs me right now that Attorney General Jeff Sessions is not moving as the states are, moving as public opinion is, but actually saying that we should be doubling down and enforcing federal marijuana laws even in states that have made marijuana legal. This to me is outrageous and unacceptable. So given the crisis, given the racial impact of marijuana enforcement, given the punishing of poor people through marijuana enforcement, given the challenges that people with mental illnesses or our veterans are experiencing through the criminal justice system and disproportionately targeting them with marijuana enforcement, we must do better. And so my bill does a number of things. First and foremost, it deschedules marijuana from the list of controlled substances, thus making it no longer illegal in federal law. That to me is a very important step, but it is just a beginning. The next thing it does is retroactively expunges people who have been convicted for use and possession of marijuana. Remember, these are charges that follow people for the rest of their lives, making it difficult for them to do things that we take for granted, like applying for a taxi cab license, something you can't get in many states, even if your marijuana conviction was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Or people who can't vote in some states because of their federal marijuana charge. And so it also actually creates not only a retroactive expungement, but for people that are in prison right now for marijuana-related charges, it gives them an avenue to appeal to the courts to have their sentences reduced or eliminated. And then finally, because of the punishing of poor people, the wildly disproportionate effect on communities of color, often poor communities themselves, we create incentives for states, an incentive pool for states to change their laws, to stop continuing by enforcing the law in such an unjust manner. We believe that states should be moving in the same way, to legalize marijuana, to end racial disparities in enforcement of marijuana laws, and frankly, to end the disproportionate targeting of poor people. So this bill does a number of things that are critical. It creates not only incentives, but finally, the fourth thing I want you to know about the bill, it creates a community reinvestment fund so that communities who have been disproportionately impacted for decades by marijuana laws, who have been devastated by marijuana laws and their unjust application, that they can apply for community reinvestment funds that would help with a number of things. They could help with job training, reentry services, the expenses related to expungement and convictions, but also investing in things like public libraries and community centers and programs that are dedicated to youth. You see, it's not enough just to say, hey, marijuana is going to be illegal, let's move forward. We're going to be legalized, let's move forward. This has done serious damage to our communities. It's done serious damage to American families. And we need to make sure that we are not only making it legal on the federal level, not only moving states to do the same, but to start targeting on not only ending the racial disparities in incarceration and the targeting of poor people, but trying to do what I call restorative justice.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's live episode of The Marijualogist, heard each and every Friday at 4:20 p.m. on the West Coast. That's Pacific Standard Time. That's 7:20 on the East Coast, yeah. Just a little herb. Before we came back live with you, you were listening to, I think, one of our future presidents.
Or candidate at least,
No, future president.
There we go. Let's claim that.
That is Democratic
Senator.
New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, former mayor of Newark, New Jersey. For those of you who don't know about this brother, you need to look him up. He, in fact, as mayor of Newark, ran into a burning building to save some of the residents. And he didn't do it as a publicity stunt. He is the real deal. Played tight end in collegiate football. He is the real deal. And to reiterate, U.S. Senator Cory Booker has introduced legislation that would legalize marijuana nationwide. The Marijuana Justice Act would remove the drug from the Controlled Substance Act, making it legal at the federal level and automatically expunge federal marijuana use and possession crimes, meaning, as he said so eloquently, I'll try to paraphrase as best I can, that it would retroactively free and release black and brown men from incarceration based on the zero harm factor.
It's a nonviolent crime, for one.
Right? That cannabis has proven to be in our society. In fact, a harm reduction element of our society. But I'm joined tonight, as always, with my esteemed colleague. I want to give him an official introduction. We have on the mic tonight, Ecor the Wolf. You might know him from such shows as The Wolf Den.
Yes. What up, though?
First Fridays, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on LA Talk Live.
Just had it last week.
Hey, what's happening with you, man?
Oh, man, just blessed to be here another week as well, and above ground. But I was just going to add to what you were saying. You were speaking on the incarceration factor, and
how this new legislation introduced by Senator Cory Booker could reverse some of the harm done by the laws against cannabis use and possession, and specifically as it impacts black and brown communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very, very relevant.
And just by being out there, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I'm also an educated man, Fisk University alumnus. But knowing both sides of the fence, these brothers are getting incarcerated, and I've also been out there as well, and I've faced incarceration as well off of this plant, this flower. And so I say this to say that by being out there, there's a lot of people that were out there on the front line doing this, and majority of those brothers weren't really like just totally wild and gangster and hardcore. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some street guys. You see, I wouldn't even consider them thugs, but I consider them from the streets. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Hustlers. And so a lot of those guys are really nonviolent because their whole thing is about, I just want to get my money served to my clients, my patients, and that's about it. I'm not here want to be Nino Brown over some trees. That's more like in the cocaine game. You know what I mean? The trees are very pleasant. And then you send these guys to being incarcerated with killers, murderers, rapists, you name it. The wildest of the wildest in the streets. And then they put you right there with them.
Well, and
you have to be forced to be violent.
If you can't do the time, then don't do the crime. And there is a level of culpability that young black men have to bear.
Yeah.
And being wise about how they address their
hustle
involvement with, the cannabis industry.
The
it
hustle,
is,
period.
In fact, industrial. This is not for kids.
But like you said,
like
you just said, if you do the crime, you do the time. But like we want to eliminate that where it's not a crime.
Right.
They just serving to the people who like to medicate.
And how does that play itself out?
It's just that man's law created that you do the crime, you do the time situation.
We have someone on the line, I think, who can address that.
Majority of these people are family members, family men, even women out there that have been hustling like that too, caught cases, and they're in there with the most heinous and violent people.
We've got our guest who's joining us tonight. I want to take a moment out to read this. This is fresh off the Law Enforcement Action Partnership website. This took place August 4th, 2017. This was a press release put out. And again, we're addressing the issue of Cory Booker's new legislation to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level nationwide. And this happened on the steps of Linden Municipal Courthouse in Linden, New Jersey. And on the line joining us tonight is one of the speakers on that very same day. He joins us all the way from New Jersey. His name is, he is a retired New Jersey state trooper, Nick Bucci. I'm going to bring your mic up. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I got you. I can hear you.
Very good. Nick, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Nick?
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Both my co-hosts and I are from the East Coast, and we know it's late there, or getting late, but I really want to make it clear that we really appreciate your contribution to our show tonight.
Most definitely.
Yeah, you've got quite a unique
you.
background. Nick, I want to set the table for the conversation as I thought about things since you and I've talked, and Ecor and I talked about you coming on tonight. And part of that is that we talked quite a lot on this show in the past 9 years with quite a many LEAP speakers as well, the founders included. Shout out to Peter Criss and Jack Cole. A special shout out to you tonight for joining us. But we've talked about the business side and how much money's made. And, you know, I looked online tonight and found that, wow, $200 million to a state like Colorado, that's got to be a boost in its economy. And if you let the business grow, wow, $1 billion in business, it's just out there to be had in Colorado, yet and still cannabis is federally illegal by and large. And so none of this means anything. The advocacy, the medical benefits, the ecological benefits, the ecological benefits, the economical, none of it means anything unless it finally is reclassified. You spoke at Senator Cory Booker's event, and I want to start off by having you introduce yourself to our tuners out there, and then talk a little bit about your involvement with LEAP, and then we're going to talk about what happened that day.
Well, I'm one of the old war horses out there. I first went into the New Jersey State Police in the fall of 1966. And from 1966 until then, President Nixon declared the war on drugs in 1971. I was a road trooper. And I swore to protect and serve the people of New Jersey. In 1971, I was suddenly taken out of uniform, put in plain clothes, and assigned to the Narcotics Bureau. Before that, our bureau wasn't a bureau. It was just a squad of 7 men. And when Nixon declared that war on drugs, we went from a 7-man narcotics squad to a 75-man bureau almost overnight. And basically that was because of the federal money that was pouring into the state police. And all we had to do was go out there and make drug arrests.
When
I served 25 years in the state police, 22 of which are narcotics.
Wow.
And when I retired in 1991, I walked away never wanting to look back. Because I knew then, from that day I retired, that this war on drugs was an abject failure. I just wanted to get as far away from it as I could.
So, real quick question: when I know you've been on the force that long, but when you were out there and you just kept going through this like this, when did you realize you were on this hamster wheel? And but yet you might have realized it, but kept going on that hamster wheel till you just made up this. You got your bearings together and said, okay, you know what, this is it. When was the actual moment? You know, was it like in the 10th year? Was it like in the 15th year? You know.
Well, you know, as a trooper, I had to enforce the laws of the state of New Jersey, and I did that from street-level narcotic dealers all the way up to international drug lords. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until toward the end of my career, I would say in the past, within the 2 years of my retirement, that I realized that this was a failure.
Right.
And what brought me to that conclusion was the death of a young man, 25-year-old man, and his death in a shootout with our police officers, with our troopers, was as a result of about 5 pounds of marijuana.
Wow. Nothing.
That was that defining moment when I said, you know, this, I can't do this anymore. This is not right. I got to get away from this.
Now,
I just could not, and it haunts me to this day, and this is why I do what I do now, is because of that incident.
Right. Now, did you know at the time dealing with the shoot? Were you actually involved in that shootout?
Well, I was the commander at the time, and as a commander, sometimes you're not out on the block with the guys.
Okay.
But this particular case was a routine, what we called a routine controlled delivery, where the post office would notify us that drugs were going into a certain location. We would surveil the location, get a search warrant, wait for the drugs to be delivered, and then we'd execute a search warrant. We did many of these things.
Right.
It was a routine thing, but as routine things go, something can go wrong.
Exactly.
And in this case, something went wrong. The fellow that receiving the drugs apparently saw some plainclothesmen out there, didn't know who they were, and when they approached him, he panicked and attempted to drive over them with his truck.
Oh, man.
And, of course, shots were fired and somebody died.
Now, was this an African-American man? Was it a Caucasian
No, it
man?
was a white.
Asian?
It was white Caucasian. It was a Caucasian male.
Wow.
Fat
Over
boy.
5 pounds. Now, did you know at the time, I'm not saying during the shootout, but just at this time period in this moment of life, did you really know that the cannabis, weed, marijuana, did you know that it's not even that bad or that strong or whatever at this time, and all these people are going to jail for it, and they're having shootouts and dying over it from, cops exchanging fire with the civilian, Did you realize that then?
Well, we didn't realize anything as far as the strength or anything of the marijuana. It was just that marijuana was being delivered there. And this was, again, a routine thing that we do. And it was a routine thing that went wrong. I mean, the marijuana could have been weed. It could have been nothing for all. But
Exactly.
we had enough information to get a warrant,
Right.
to execute the warrant. And this is what happens. And it just, it just turned me right around. It says, that's it, I'm done.
Right.
Nick,
And I got out of it, and believe me, I wanted nothing to do with drugs after that until Jack Cole, who was one of the founders of LEAP,
that's right.
called me
shout
one
to
day
Jack.
and says, Nick, I want you to join LEAP with me. I says, Jack, no thanks. I'm out. No, come on. We need you. We need you. And he would never let go to me. Never let go. And then finally I says, all right, I'll join, but that's it.
Right.
Yeah. But, of course, as Jack is Jack, next thing I know, I'm speaking for LEAP, and he's got me involved. And then I started really thinking, there's got to be something I can do
Jack
to
and the Leap
change
Stalk.
the laws.
That was Jack and the Great
I'm
Leap
still
Stalk.
doing it 25 years later.
There it is.
So I want to take note of that. You said you've been with LEAP 25 years.
No, I've been with
okay.
LEAP. I've been a member of LEAP for about 13 years.
Wow.
That's almost
just
25.
as significant, yeah. That's
And I've
more
been
than
a
half.
speaker now. I think it's coming up on 5 years.
Nick, how rewarding is it for you now?
Let's thank Jack first of all. Jack is like the
but
guy.
Jack Cole.
Jack is like the guy that dove out of bounds and saved the basketball, and then he got it to the shooter to win the game. So we got to remember that guy. You know what I mean? Jack is the one that got him started.
I can tell you what I can remember about Jack because he was one of the first members
Jack
of
Cole.
LEAP. Jack Cole was one of the first members of LEAP to join us via phone on the Marijualogist, and this was back in the days when we didn't even have video. We were pure audio. And Jack connected us to Peter Criss, and then Jim Garish, and then Diane Goldstein, and the list just goes on and on. I actually revisit that list, Nick, and I'm fascinated with how many people from LEAP who've been so generous like
Join us,
yourself
man.
to validate what we're doing here. Again, we explore the global impact of cannabis that plays out to us in those 5 categories, from the economy to the ecology. But in your case, it must be pretty rewarding to convert all of that energy, some of which, let's say the bulk of which has been positive. You certainly have had many great years and days as a law enforcement officer, particularly in New Jersey. I thought about it when I got off the phone with you earlier today in the pre-interview. In my encounters with New Jersey state troopers, one of the things that stood out was their professionalism and how they addressed you when they got out of the car and walked up to your car, and how they were very stern but fair and professional. And so that always struck me when I hear New Jersey State Troopers. One thing I know, I better have my shit together.
Oh, man.
Two is,
I got stopped by a state
if my
trooper.
shit's together,
Michigan State Trooper.
I don't really have a problem. So it got to be pretty rewarding for you to, now come, this, turn in life where you look at all that experience and energy and be able to come back to the community and talk about all the positive things that LEAP does, all the positive messages, the way that you can help people rethink society. That's so impactful. When you're doing it, you don't even realize how important it is. But again, my question is, how rewarding is it for you to have become a member of LEAP? In 13 years, it must be pretty good, huh?
It is very rewarding, especially when I talk to people about LEAP, and they tell me, well, what is LEAP? And I start explaining to them it's a bunch of retired law enforcement officers, judges, from all walks of the criminal justice system that have come together to see if we can't change some of the things that are going on with these drugs. Drugs have been around for a very long time. They're going to be around a long time after I'm gone. So we have to deal with that issue. We're not going to stop it, so we have to control and regulate it. When they look at me, when I tell somebody we have to control and regulate it, they go right away, you mean legalize it? So you can buy it on a street corner, you can go down to the 7-Eleven and buy it? I said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. If we can control and legalize it, we're taking it out of the hands of the street corner dealer. He's the one that's out there selling it to kids. He doesn't ask them how old they are. I says, at least, look at what's going on in Colorado. You go into a pot shop out in Colorado.
Right.
I don't care how old you are. They want to see your driver's license.
Exactly.
I mean, my wife and I visited friends out in Washington State. And one of the highlights I was there, I said to my wife, I said, I want to go to one of these pot shops. I want to see what it's like. So we did. Now, my wife's an attorney. I'm a retired trooper who was a narc. And I go to one of these pot shops, and we walk in. Hello, how are you? I show them my credentials, my driver's license. They asked for my wife's driver's license, and she goes, why, you don't think I'm 21? She was like flattered that.
Right. Getting carded flatters me still, Nick.
That they have out there, the controls that they have out there. So that's what we need here in New Jersey. We need to control and regulate the marijuana in this state.
And Nick, there are a lot of dispensary owners, professional business people who are involved and or are chomping at the bit to get into this business, but they don't want to get in with that federal regulation hanging over their head constantly. There are smart people with professional backgrounds. I've met them from bankers to military vets fresh from the battlefield who came out and decided to open up a dispensary, but they always had that, that pendulum over their head of at any given time they could get kicked in and lose their entire investment. And I've seen this happen repeatedly. It's still happening now.
Out here.
This is why when we reached out to LEAP this week, and shouts to Roshan, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Roshan, yes.
Yeah, Roshan, who connected you with us for tonight's episode. I talked about the idea of what Jeff Sessions is saying, juxtaposed to what Cory Booker is proposing. I don't know which idea will prevail. Old school thinking or new school thinking. You were there, so can you give us a little glimpse into what that looked like? And I know you spoke there as well.
I speak to a lot of people about Sessions and what he's trying to do, and especially police officers. I talk to police officers every day when I'm out there, and they know I'm a retired trooper, and they respect me for that. And when they find out I'm part of LEAP and what I represent, what I'm trying to do, we talk about the problems of the drugs here in New Jersey. And the cops look at me and says, that's all I do is go out there and arrest people for marijuana. That's all I'm doing. I mean, New Jersey, we lock up an average of 23,000 people a year for possession of marijuana. That's 23,000 times a police officer is not going to be out on the street doing the job he's supposed to be doing to protect and serve the people in New Jersey, especially against pedophiles, against robbers, against murderers. I mean, we have so many cases that are still open in this state only because they spend most of their time chasing people for possession of marijuana because of the federal money. The more arrests you make, the more federal money comes in, the more grants come in. So that's part of the big problem with this whole thing. And Sessions, he wants to go back to the Clinton era. He wants to go back to the Nixon era. I mean, with the mandatory minimum. So we have people out there to get arrested for a pound of marijuana and they go to jail for 50 years because of the mandatory minimums.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous what they're doing. And sooner or later, the people are going to realize this and things are going to happen. I mean, we have right now, I think the number is up almost 70% of people in this country who want to see marijuana legalized. And over 90-some-odd% now want to see it legalized medically. So sooner or later, they're going to have to start listening to the people in this country.
Because it was always told that the power is to the people. We was always told
Absolutely.
In our country, right? What country are we in? You know what I mean? Like, come on, it has to make sense.
You know, we have 5% of the, and I'm sure you heard this, we have 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the people that are incarcerated.
Wow.
We have more jails in this country than Russia, 4 times as many as Russia. Over 1 million people that are in jail, federally and state, and that doesn't count the people that are out on parole, probation, that are still under the Criminal Justice Act.
Now, you said 23,000. Now, out here in the state, and just in Los Angeles County alone, if I'm not mistaken, there are at least 4,000, if not more, men going into the county jail system daily.
4,000.
Yes, something of that nature, if not higher. If not higher.
Well,
this is daily.
I don't think we need to sit here naively and not acknowledge that this is
that's 20,000 within months.
A most lucrative system that's been put together to incarcerate people. And this is what I think Cory Booker's legislation will address in kind of taking a closer look at that and at least slowing down, you know, the production line and looking a little deeper into like, wait a minute here, we're really processing these people in and out in such a way that all they're doing is bringing that same devastation right back into the community, into the neighborhood.
Worse, because
and
now they've been incarcerated where they turn into even wilder.
Right.
You know,
good point. I was going to say that now they're more desensitized to violence.
To violence, and it's like I can handle jail. I can handle jail now, prison now. I've been
got
there,
nothing to lose.
So I have nothing to lose. Bring it on.
Yeah, and if you can't keep drugs out of a prison, how are you going to keep it out of?
Exactly, exactly. It's still in prison. Come on.
And I've investigated it enough times of people in jail, guards and cooks and people that work in the jail bringing drugs in there because of the money. You know, just follow them. Anytime we do an investigation, a drug investigation, you follow the money. You want to get to the top, you follow the money. You know? I used to have guys come to me and say, I want to open up a case on this guy. I go, why? Because I do. Why? Because he drives a brand new Mercedes and he has no job. I go, oh, okay, take a look at him then. And we would look at things like this, like, where's this guy getting all this money from? And therefore, you know it, that's what it was. It was the drugs.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to ask you a tough question. And Iko, did you want to say something?
No, that was just wild to hear that just now. You know, because you just never know who's watching you, and never know who's going to, you know, who never even approached you. They just backed off you.
You know,
even knowing like sharks.
I stepped out momentarily earlier in the show as you and Nick were talking, but I did hear Nick talk about having done long-term investigations on drug shipments and how they sit on a case long enough because they're under pressure to produce, you know, convictions, but also they've got time.
They have to take
and the weight of
their time.
The weight of the law behind them, so they can take their time and see things develop and
cross
create
all the T's,
you know,
all the I's.
Exactly. But hey, Nick, this is a tough question, and I promise you no curveballs, but this won't be a hard one.
It's a change up.
Are drugs bad? Are drugs bad for America? In your personal opinion, are drugs bad?
No, they're not bad. If they're used properly, they're not bad.
I think
No, even the opioids
Right.
we have out there, they're to help people in pain, but they can be abused like anything else.
Exactly. Just like they're
You know,
being
and
abused.
now you got Big Pharma stepping in there. When we had this influx of all these opioids on the market, we had Big Pharma coming in and telling people, well, it's not addicting. This is good stuff. This is
You're just dependent.
our FDA actually approved drugs based on what they were telling them.
They say you're not addicted. You're just dependent right now.
Absolutely.
Play on words. I mean, what's the difference?
that's a good point,
There's no
Nico. They did
difference,
change the
really.
language.
The play
I
on
depend
words.
on
I mean,
this. I'm addicted
I
to
read
this
all that, and I
dependence.
said, it is a play on words.
I'm
That's all it is.
addicted to this dependence. You know, I mean, well, so what is it? Or I'm dependent on this addiction?
Another question, Nick, and thanks once again. I know it's getting late there. We won't keep you too much
Okay.
longer. I've just got a few questions. I know Ecor is chomping at the bit as well, but the drug war is a loss. Let's kind of pretty much acknowledge that. You're right. Drugs are here.
Absolutely.
If it is a war, the anti-drug war has been getting its ass kicked
Man.
almost from day one of school. I mean, that's like coming into kindergarten and
bully.
graduating high school and having your ass kicked every
Every day
single
by
year.
the bully. Every day.
Yeah. Even when you
Up
go to
every year.
summer camp, you just find a bully to kick your ass.
There you go.
No, that same bully, he's there too.
Tatted
Just
on your
keeps-
back.
He just keeps
kick
showing
me
up.
here. It's like it's like Homer Simpson in that chicken he fights all the
Like the
time.
guy in the back of the old
Shows up
comic
at the
books
weirdest-
at
Oh,
the beach.
let me get
Gets
back on
sand
track.
kicked in his face.
So we know the drug war is a permanent loss.
Yes.
Needs to give up, get out the ring. Hey, you punch drunk, Jeff. You might as well just retire now while you got some money. But is there a future? You know, you and I talked earlier, and if you don't mind, sharing this with our audience about safe injection zones that are taking place in other more forward-thinking countries where they're seeing, as you mentioned earlier, a reduction in crime and a reduction in overdose. If you haven't mentioned that earlier, when I stepped out, if you could speak to that again, please.
Yeah, I that's one of my pet things is about the safe injection sites. In Ocean County, where I live here in New Jersey, we have the second highest rate of overdose deaths in the state. And when
Yeah.
people talk about, oh no, Camden, New Jersey is the worst. I said, but if you look at Camden, New Jersey, you're going to find a lot of Ocean County residents that go there to buy their drugs, take their drugs, and overdose. And because they overdosed in Camden, that's where they get the numbers. Camden gets the numbers. Ocean County, I think, is one of the highest things in overdose rates in the entire state of New Jersey. And we have a prosecutor here in Ocean County, has all these tools in his toolbox, and he uses everything he can get his hands on. You know, from naloxone, getting that into every police car to keep these people alive. And I say, if these people had a place where they could go and inject their drugs and have somebody there that to help them if they overdosed, we could drop the rate of overdoses in Ocean County almost down to zero. We could do that. But when I talk about that, you mean let them shoot drugs? I mean, aren't you enabling them? And I tell them, no. I'm trying to keep them alive until we can get them help. I'd rather see them shoot up and overdose in a place where there's going to be a nurse or there's going to be somebody there to give them the naloxone than to have them shoot up. And it happens in libraries, in the bathrooms in McDonald's,
libraries,
Kmart,
Nick?
Yeah.
and we have it every day.
Nick,
These
what?
people-
Wait.
Or in vacant houses.
Wait, Nick.
We have to bring them out of there
Nick, wait a
and
minute.
into the open.
You're saying Walmarts, McDonald's.
Yes.
Bathrooms. Yes.
Are
In
you
these public
serious?
bathrooms. Yes.
This is how bad this epidemic has
is
become.
going on, yep.
Yes. I mean, the cops, they peruse the parking lots of McDonald's and they see people sitting there. They're not eating McDonald's. They're sitting in there doing their heroin. And when the cops pull up, you either overdose or they know they're shooting heroin.
Wow. All right, so
Yeah.
I guess my question earlier was to speak to, are we doomed? Should we just give up now and just all party like it's 1999? Or is there Is there any chance that we can win this? And again, speaking to safe injection
We can win it,
sites.
but it's a multifaceted thing that we have to get. What they say is it takes a village, it takes a
Right.
town, it takes a county, it takes a state, it takes everybody looking at every aspect of this drug problem. And by Sessions saying that marijuana is bad, it leads to heroin, the guy is not tuned into I tell him, do the research. I write letters to him, do the research.
No, tell him to
You're going
smoke.
to find out that's not the case.
Tell him to smoke,
But
and he'll find out for his own self.
How many people, let me see, how many people died here in New Jersey who overdosed on marijuana?
Man, please.
None.
Or stole their kids'
How many in the
bike.
country? None.
Stole their kids' piggy bank. You know what I mean?
Right.
For a bag, for a nickel bag or a bag. You know, it's like, really? If you don't have none of that, you just be like, I wish I could smoke. And you'll end up finding somebody down the street that's cool with you. They got some. You're going to smoke and be like, I can relax now and get my head straight now.
Want to mention, not to mention that blacks and Latinos, 3.5 times more getting arrested than whites.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yet they use at the same rate both.
Right.
Oh, yeah, most
I mean,
definitely.
I had a group coming to my house here in Seaside Park to interview Jack and I about drugs, and they happened to be black, and they were coming into Seaside Park. When they rounded the curve coming into Seaside Park, it was a cop car sitting there.
Wait a minute. Where are you going, buddy?
Hey, buddy.
I'm telling you, yeah. And that's what they did. And the two guys looked at each other and I think we're going to get stopped. And sure enough, before they got to my house, they were pulled over. Where you going? What's going on? What are you doing here? And he says, we're going to see you. We're going to interview. Okay. Why are you stopping us?
Sure
you
you
were
are,
following
buddy.
the car in front of you too close.
Yeah, sure
They
you're
were
going
going
to
to
interview
its
somebody.
construction zone. So I was so mad when that happened. And the guy, I says, this is, he goes, I was just glad to get out of there with my skin tonight, not go to jail.
Wow.
I said, would you have anything in the car? He goes, no. But the cop says, I smell cannabis in the car. And the guy in the back, he says, hold on, officer. He says, you may smell it on my clothes. Because here, I have a card. I have a medical card for marijuana. And the cop, you know what the cop told him?
What?
Well, I can still arrest you because it's illegally, federally, it's illegally. It's illegal federally.
To have
Jack and I
to have
stood
that
there
car.
looking at each
To have
other.
that car.
I can't believe this happened.
Well, he said it was.
No, to have cannabis anywhere in the country, no matter what your state laws are.
No, but he's saying that they
federally is what he's saying. I could still arrest you because it's federally illegal.
Yeah,
still.
but he didn't have
And he
anything
can't
on him
do
though.
that.
But he didn't
Yeah,
have
we
anything
know
on him.
he did have some on him. He said, "Wait a minute."
He just had his
officer,
card. All he had was his
No,
card.
he had a card. He didn't
That's
have
it.
anything
He
on
didn't have
him.
anything.
What?
Just the card. As I said, you
Just
can't
the
get.
card.
All
He
he
said
had
it
was
was
all he had was his
marijuana
Rex.
card.
All he had was his
I
Rex.
figured if it was on his clothes, Nick, he might have lit up one and left a little roach in
You
the pocket.
can't even get
or
arrested
something.
for smell. You can't get arrested
What?
for that. You can walk in a room full of people smoking cigarettes and walk out of the house smell like cigarettes,
Yeah, of course,
and you
yeah.
don't smell. And do I smoke cigarettes? No.
But of course, he did not go to jail.
No,
Right,
they
of
did
course,
not.
yeah.
Once they found out, I think once the police officer found out he was coming to my house, and most of the guys in town know me, he was released. But he did get a summons, I think, for following too close,
Oh my God.
which is a moving violation.
So Nick,
And then
again, I'm gonna press you to the question: do we have a future? What does it look like? How do we play this out? How does a show like ours? How does organizations like LEAP, Americans for Safe Access, Normal? How do we play this out and make sure we win in the end? Because I get nervous.
We stayed a
still.
course. We
Yeah.
stayed a course.
Okay.
Exactly.
And we
That's the
use
answer.
and we use the evidence that we get from our doctors and from our scientists, and we stayed a course.
Great
And it's
answer.
going to happen. It's going to happen. I see it. I see it, and you see it right now with all the states that are legalizing marijuana.
I think it's more than
Somebody in
half
Washington
the country.
is finally going to say, "Hey, we better start debating this.
Better get some of this money.
before we're all voted out of office."
All that money in
And that's
Colorado.
what's going to
made.
happen politically. We got to put the pressure on.
All right, Nick. So
And I do it all the time. Every time I see one of my congressmen, it's the first thing that comes up when I start talking to them, to see where they're coming from. And then I quote them afterwards.
what's happening with Pennsylvania? You're right there.
Well, Pennsylvania right now has the medical marijuana. That was
Right.
approved.
Okay.
And that's moving.
Excellent.
I think the next thing you're going to see there is a legalization.
And then, do you think that would be good for? What do you think has been like for Jersey? Before we let you go, has that been good?
It's been bad as long as we have this governor that's in there, who still thinks marijuana leads to heroin.
But cannabis is in fact medically legal in Jersey, correct?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yes, it is.
And,
But
and yet the governor says, but it's going to lead to heroin. Oh my God. No.
but what the governor inherited that when he became governor. That law was on the books already.
Right.
And there was nothing he could do about it. But he's put up enough roadblocks up there that it's very difficult for people in this state to get medical marijuana. Very difficult.
Is it really?
And doctor has to prescribe it. And if a doctor prescribes it, then they list that doctor's name gets listed
Yikes.
in a newspaper. And tomorrow the feds, the DEA
What?
can come in and take away
Kick his life.
their right to write a prescription because it's still against federal law. And they'll send a letter to the doctor. It's against federal law to prescribe marijuana to a patient.
That's what's happening in New Jersey?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And that's
When were
why
you
we're
going to
having
tell
that
us,
problem.
Nick? All right, so Nick, hold on. So
But he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone.
That's Governor
And the
Christie,
new governor
right?
coming in,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, Governor Christie.
Well, pardon me?
Governor Christie of New Jersey,
Will
yes?
be gone.
Yeah.
This year. The end of this year.
Yeah,
He's
he's definitely ready to be flipped in New Jersey. I know you guys have had enough of him.
Oh, boy, did we ever.
Oh boy, yeah. And then of course I want to take you back, Nick, before I let you go, right?
Go ahead.
I want to take you back to a time when in Pennsylvania, of course, Philadelphia, where I'm from, when on Sunday, of course, you know, Pennsylvania being I think they call it a blue state, right? We
Right.
couldn't buy any alcohol on Sunday, but we could take a hop, skip, and a jump across any one of the bridges, from the Tacony Palmyra to the Franklin to the, you know,
To the Stanklin.
all of the bridges would lead us to New Jersey and those lovely liquor stores that you guys had. Not the state store that the Pennsylvania system had, but the liquor store. And you'd walk in there, it'd be like a supermarket of booze. And you could buy yourself some booze and drive it back across the bridge and have a nice time on a Sunday. Because in those days, even when I was
we do the same thing in New Jersey when we want to buy cigarettes cheaper.
Right.
We
Now-
cross the bridge into Pennsylvania, and we do the same thing. We walk in, a carton of cigarettes, half the price of what it is in New Jersey.
So what I think is pretty funny right now is unless Pennsylvania is having the same moral issues with cannabis that Jersey's having under Christie, I'm hoping that in Pennsylvania, Jerseyites are coming across the bridge not just to buy those cigs, but also to get themselves a nice little dub or two from the local cannabis store in
could
Philadelphia. It could happen.
Another question, Nick.
Both of those places need that money.
So, Nick, have you ever experienced the edible, or have you ever took a puff after being off the force? I mean, are you a patient? Are you 420 friendly, Nick?
That's client doctor privilege. You do not have to answer that question, Nick.
Well, we are a cannabis show, and I am a broadcaster, so you know,
And
it's
answer at your own peril.
this is the nightly news.
When
on
I
Ain't no
was
LA
shame
Talk
in it,
Live.
when I was working in narcotics, when I would go to court and they'd say, "Well, what did you do?" I did this, this, and this. We're all in a room, and we're buying drugs, and they were passing a joint around, and they look and they go, "Well, did you smoke it?" And I would look at them and say, "I simulated smoking."
I did not inhale.
But I think we had a president that said that.
I did not
didn't
inhale. That was Bill Clinton.
And then we had a president a little later that said, "Yeah, I inhaled and I enjoyed it, and now let's decriminalize it."
Exactly.
And thank you, Barack Obama, and let's hope that that all of our efforts are not in vain. And I don't think so, Nick. I'm very, very optimistic about it.
So am I.
And I think as long as we got smart folks like you and all the esteemed ladies and gentlemen of LEAP out there, folks who have lived and survived on the tip of the spear of the drug war, coming back to tell us your money's been wasted. Let's reallocate it to schools and poverty, or do something else with the money. But we've certainly wasted our time and a lot of resources on this drug war.
Millions,
All right.
millions of dollars.
I'm 100% behind what Cory Booker is doing. Is it going to make its way? Who knows? At this point, it doesn't look good.
What'd you
know
tell me
what?
earlier?
Again, it's the start. It is the start. If we can get marijuana removed from the same scheduling as heroin, even if they move it down 2 notches to a second degree or a third, move it out of there, so we can now look at it and test it and do it. Right now, you can't do it because it's a prohibited drug. Scientists can't even possess it unless The government gives it to them. And the stuff that they're making and that they're growing in Mississippi has nothing to do with what's out there today.
Mind you, we forgot about the
states like out west where it's legal, they're doing it now. Now they're looking at it, and they're starting to come up with, hey, this is good for this. It's good for kids with seizures.
That's what I was going to say. We forgot about the wellness side of it. They're not even looking at that aspect of it. It's actually helping, curing, and healing a lot of ailments for people that these pharmaceuticals are not doing. And just think about all the money over all the years of this drug war. I guarantee you, it's probably way over the billion mark of all this money and all the monies and grants that were wasted and used and made at the same time. Billions of dollars. A lot of people ate very well. I guarantee you, a lot of that money, some people ate very well.
Well, I'm not one to be a quitter, but I'm really ready to give up on the drug war. What about you, Nick?
I want to quit. I'm a quitter when it comes to that.
I'm ready to give up on the drug war.
Ready to give up on
we
it.
need to take another approach to it.
It's a war on people. When they said it was a drug war, it's a war on people. If you go back to Nixon's day, it was a war on two people. It was a war on the blacks, and it was a war on the people that were protesting our involvement in Vietnam. And in each quote, they're saying that.
Which included multi races of people that helped, push that as well. So that was a war on those people as well. So I get what you're saying,
Hey Nick, any final words before we let you go? I know it's getting late there, man. And once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
I just want to thank you for having me on and listening to me, and I feel good about it.
No doubt, we want to have you back.
The talks that we're having now is going to have some impact on this so-called war. That we can do something. And someday we may talk again. Look, we did it. Look what happened. And I hope it's in my lifetime. I just hit the 75-year mark.
Wow, congratulations.
Right. Give it up. When was your life day? When was it?
What's that?
I was saying, when was your life day? When was your birthday?
February.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, I turned 75 in February.
My mother's birthday.
25 years in the state police and 25 years as a civilian outside the state police. That's 50 years that I've been involved with this
Both
drug
sides
war.
of it, yeah.
So was your birthday February 5th or 15th? Which one of the two?
19th.
Oh, okay. My mother's the 5th and my grandmother's the 15th.
See that? All great people.
Aquarius. Great Aquarius, man.
He's a good guy, too, Nick. And listen, Rock, hey, we've got his picture on the screen. Nick's quite the looker himself, huh?
There he is. He got all the
bad looking guy. Look at him.
Get all the ladies. Look at him.
All right. So, Nick, is there any way you'd like to give out for folks to contact LEAP or be able to avail themselves of your services and any of the speakers?
Well, they can go up online. It's www.LEAP.cc, and it tells everybody all about what we do. It lists all the speakers that we have available and all the chapters we have all over the world.
And, in fact, it's searchable by Q. So if you like what you heard from our guest tonight, Nick Bucci, I'm saying that correct, right?
Yeah, Bucci, you got it.
They call you the Booch, don't they? The Booch.
Hey, I'm from Philadelphia. Yo, man,
here come the Booch. They like, oh, man, here come Officer Booch, man. Here he come. Oh, my God, the Booch. Yo, go get the Booch. Go call the Booch.
You can actually search for Nick Bucci on the LEAP site if you like anything you heard tonight, and I'm sure you did. Nick, once again, I want to give you a rousing round of applause for hanging out with us late on it is Friday night in Philly. I hope you're not going to bed just yet.
I know it's
Seaside,
8 o'clock,
same
man. It's
time
only
zone.
8:26 there, man. It's time to turn up, baby.
My wife and I was just sitting here watching the sun go down while we were talking to you, looking over the water.
Well, hello to the Mrs. Bucci. How are you out there, Miss Bucci?
Thank you, Miss Bucci, so much for
lending us your hubby for an hour assigned.
Nick, we'll see you next time. Thank you once again. We'll be in touch.
You're welcome.
Most definitely.
Right.
More
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you for having me on.
All right, Nick. Enjoy your evening and your weekend.
Man, was that a great segment? That is retired Lieutenant of the New Jersey State Trooper.
I want to smoke to that.
Nicholas Bucci, Law Enforcement Action Partnership. Once again, Nick, Nick, Bucci, if you want to look him up on LEAP's website. You can also look up such names as Jack Cole and Peter Christ. And, Ecor, I'm sitting here thinking, as we were talking with Nick, that we should probably see if we can get Nick and Peter and Jack on the air at the same time via Skype. That would be one crazy show.
The Chris Cole Bucci.
Well, not just that, with Peter Chris and Jack Cole being the co-founders of LEAP, and then having a guy who was converted by Jack Cole to LEAP. With all of that experience, brother, we could probably help educate individuals out there
the masses
on how to relate to law enforcement when they approach you, particularly if you're a cannabis patient, how to stand up for your rights without being a standoff affair. Like, okay, we got a standoff here. This guy's got some cannabis and he's going. No, we can kind of teach you out there, young brothers and sisters, black, white, brown, yellow, red, whoever you are. If you're in L.A. especially, you need to tune in every 4:20 Fridays Pacific
Standard
to LA
time.
Talk Live and listen to Ecor the Wolf and yours truly, Richard Carr, and all of these incredible members of LEAP help educate you on how to not get yourself jammed up out there on a Friday night if you just came from a collective. Buying yourself some medicine with good intention and going home to use it, not while you're driving.
Exactly.
So
be
that
responsible
said,
behind that wheel as well, people.
I want, again, a rousing round of applause for our friend Nick Bucci. We'll have him back. Let's not forget about some of our friends who stopped in here recently.
Oh, yeah. Let's take, Sherry, Sean.
Cher Bear, Sherry Bell.
We have
Eddie Funkster.
We got
Trey Maxwell.
We got Mary Carry-On.
Mary Carry-On.
We have Heather Naw from CBG Genetics. And we met some new friends as well.
How about Janet Johnson?
The Pro Tandem team over there. We met them.
Right, but how about Janet Johnson, who was on with us?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Most
Marijuana
definitely.
Mindfulness.
Most
she does yoga classes for people who want to medicate and meditate.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I love
her.
Jana. Yeah.
Jana Johnson,
And then we also have King Harvest.
Shouts to my man, the King.
Lee Simpson and Bridget Scordo over there at kingharvest.org. Check
We'll have
them
them
out.
back soon.
And we are here, man, pushing this movement and helping to save lives. That's most definitely what I'm in it for, the wellness portion of it. And because I've been on the recreational side for many years, and I've been being educated more and more. And it's just a beautiful thing to know how this flower blooms in so many ways and how much of a healing aspect it has that God presented this plant to us, man. From the cannabinoid receptors in our bodies to the outer flower to put in our bodies to activate those receptors. And for those people who think that the plant is this bad plant, you are sadly mistaken. You are sadly missing out on the feel
You say
of
Sally?
life. Sadly.
You sadly mistaken.
Sadly
mistaken.
You sadly mistaken, huh? You sadly mistaken because the power of this plant, and you're not utilizing the strength within you and it to take you to higher heights as well as healing heights. So
much maligned as it is, I'll tell you, it is much loved in this country.
Very much loved.
We love cannabis in America, man.
Yes.
It is a burgeoning, growing industry, community, movement, and culture.
Yeah.
And it's not going anywhere, apparently.
I'm lighting up right now.
Yep. And thanks to people like Nick Bucci from Law Enforcement Action Partnership, all our good friends over at LEAP. Special thanks to Roshan tonight for setting us up with that incredible guest. We're out for the night, and that's our show for this week. Thank you all for tuning in to tonight's live episode of The Marijualogist with Richard Carr and Ecor the Wolf. Be sure to tune in every first Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific, for The Wolf's Den with him truly.
Hosting some of the greatest talents in the country.
Producer and host of The Wolf's Den, Ecor the Wolf.
Yes.
First Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific with live performances right here in the studio.
You dig. Gas it up, y'all. It's Friday night, your weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Be responsible, be safe, and always tune into LATalkLive.com and the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. We are reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. Again, we are LA Talk Live, and we are more than just
That's
talk.
a good rap, but I'm happy to have you do that again because we'd be remiss without acknowledging the official sponsors of the Marijualogist tonight.
Yes.
And that is Green Crosses.
Green Crosses.
Finally, Wardrobe got me hooked up and brought me my cap for the night. A little later on in the show, you've been tight to the right all night.
No doubt.
Once again, let's give a thanks and a rousing round of applause to our good friends over at Green Crosses.
Green Crosses.
For the drove.
We love y'all over there.
All right, so take it back from the top.
Yeah, again, this is Ecor the Wolf, and we gladly thank you for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Enjoy your Friday night. Be responsible. Do not drink and drive and get behind that wheel. Love your family.
Don't
love your
smoke
kids.
and drive either now.
Don't smoke and drive either. 420 it up, man. And again, check us out, LA Talk Live. Always tune into us every Friday, 4:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the Wolf's Den every first Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, we are LA Talk Live, reality radio here in Compton for your listening and viewing pleasure. We are, again, LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. And we out. And we out. Smoke up.
I smoke so much weed that I sweat THC. A day without herb, I can never let it be.
Come in, doctor.
Nigga, I gotta go. I'm working.
Doctor, this is the mayor talking.
All right.
Doctor,
Come on, what?
always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
I was over at a seat-tone. Damn, it must have slipped my hand. Instead of packing like a pack rat, I was packing like a fat cat instead. Can't believe I did it once again. A fucked up habit that I got. I always do it to myself. I'm always smoking on my pot. I got no options, I could call a weedman from the streets. But it's a Monday and it's 6 a.m. before his peak. That's fucking weak, I need some weed. A long morning, THC free. I can't believe I got no marijuana for my brain. I always do this cause I need a blunt's my fucking name. I need to go at 10 a.m. I pull up to the front, guess what? They're open. Oh, why did I smoke you up, smoke you up, smoke you up, smoke you up? Oh, why did
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, and crafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.